Alright, how's it going, everyone? So I haven't done an impressions video in quite some time, but hoping this one turns out okay. Let me know your guys' thoughts on me returning to this type of format. I'm going to try and play around with the style of these, so if you prefer something a little bit more, written, but not sort of off the cusp like this one, let me know what you guys think in terms of the format of how I should do these going forward. That being said, I wanted to give my sort of review, I suppose, on the Ascent. This is a game I completed a few days ago on the Xbox Series X, and felt it was a good starting point to start returning to these style of videos. So that being said, this is a game that I've been keeping an eye out on ever since it was announced, I believe close to the Xbox Series X reveal or somewhere around there. And what really intrigued me about this game was just the graphical art style. We have this really dark dystopian future that looked to take cues from Blade Runner and Star Wars, and you just had visuals on display that, to me at least, really screamed next-gen quality at the time. Even though this is a cross-generation game, you can get this game on the Xbox One family of consoles. This is a game that, honestly, to my eye, looks fairly next generation when you're just looking at the detail and the density of the environments. Unfortunately, on Series X, you don't have ray tracing. You have that exclusively on the PC version, and the game definitely looks gorgeous with that on. But even without it, gosh, the graphics are fantastic. It is the main drawing point I think this game is for me, just in terms of the visual design, the style of the world, and it's just consistently gorgeous. Different areas of the world have a different graphical style to them, so sometimes you'll run into cleaner environments, other times you'll run into like really tight spaces and some urban locations. There's sewers and flooded areas. Even the game just has an amazing amount of variety to the environments. And I'll tell you something that really surprised me when I was playing this game. The world is massive. In fact, it's much larger in scale than I previously thought going into this game. You have so many types of environments here, and the game just kind of lets you explore and kind of, takes the chain off, and you're allowed to kind of go anywhere you want as soon as you start playing the game. However, to combat that, the game also has a leveling system, kind of like an RPG mechanic, where your character has a level, different weapons have a level, different armors have leveling, and different stats and stuff like that. The enemies have their own level. And so quite early on, I typically like to play video games by exploring first and then delving into the story content. This is one of those games where I'm going to have to recommend, if you're going to play it, let the game go at its own pace. Don't try to go and explore. Don't try to do all these crazy side missions and stuff, because you're going to run into a lot of roadblocks along the way. Very quickly, I found myself kind of getting frustrated because I attempted to explore the world, which is, again, massive in scale. It took me a long time. And the first few hours, I actually managed to get into an area that was way over leveled compared to my brand new starting character. And so the game kind of forced me out, because I was just getting killed like abruptly and instantly everywhere I turned. The game unfortunately has a really poor checkpoint system as well, where it'll spawn you in the same general location as where you were dying. So if you're exploring and you happen to find yourself in an overleveled area, you're going to be spawned in that same location, and so you're going to have to bear the frustration and just kind of get out of there by any means necessary. You're going to be finding yourself dodging and running past enemies quite frequently in this game. So my recommendation is, if you're going to play this game, don't try to explore right away. Just let the game take you to the world at its own pace, and the game will take you to all the locations in the world if you let it. There are a few side missions in this game, and unfortunately, I just feel like the story content is really just one of the worst elements that this game has to offer. The narrative is very boring. It didn't draw me in. Initially, it has a very intriguing element to it. This is a future where the most desirable element is employment, and status is much more valued over common wealth any day of the week in this world. And so you work for a corporation who just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and there's a whole kind of conspiracy going on with a coup and all this type of stuff. Unfortunately, the story lost me around 4 hours getting into the game. I just stopped paying attention completely, and none of the characters are really likable or really have, very interesting personalities. They're all fairly, stoic and cliche in their writing. So for me, it's like the storytelling wasn't really there. It's one of the, one of the things that really sticks out with this game, especially because the presentation quality is so beautiful. This game just looks immaculate from, a bird's eye perspective. But the storytelling isn't there. I will say that the side missions as well aren't really that worth doing. They don't really reward you with interesting stories, and most of the game is comprised of the same repetitive action. Because this is a top-down twin-stick third-person shooter, you can't really do much in terms of the variety of the game. There's no puzzle solving in this game. It's your objective is always to either collect something or to go and kill someone. And the game, unfortunately, kind of overstays its welcome. It took me around 14 hours to actually complete this game from start to finish. And honestly, after about 10 hours or so, I was really ready for this game to be over. This is a game that could potentially take you up to 30 or 40 hours. Yes, that long, if you want to complete every side mission and explore every nook and cranny of this world. There's a lot here in terms of value for your content. But keep in mind that this genre, this style of game only has so much to offer, and so I kind of felt that tugging me back at times. The world is interesting enough to the point where every single time I got to a new area, I mean, there's a lot of variety in here, I'll give it that. It was exciting, and I wanted to explore, and I wanted to be part of this world and really kind of go in depth into the type of lifestyle that these people were living, and the citizens, and just the storefronts and all that type of stuff. But at the same time, the gameplay, was also kind of tugging me the other way, because it does get repetitive. It's the same thing, kind of the whole way through. So, that's one thing for me that I felt that this game kind of missed the mark on, is that, it decided to go for, a very long experience if you want it to be. And even at its own pace, this game is still going to take you, I would say, around 10 hours to actually get through. And just around that mark, you're starting to feel the fatigue and repetition really set in. So for me, I felt like this game could have been a lot better had they focused on the pacing of it and just putting you in these really crazy firefights. There's some cool elements in the story, and the game does get kind of crazy and hectic and very challenging later on. So there is a bit of a difficulty spike, and like I said, there's an RPG mechanic to the gameplay here, where there is leveling systems and whatnot. And so if you don't pay attention and upgrade the right stuff, you're going to get your ass handed to you very early on in the game. The game really does utilize these RPG mechanics in terms of its gameplay, and it can at times be frustrating because certain loadouts of a character will not do so well here. There's no classes, right? You just create your own character from scratch, and you're kind of going off into the world here, and then you upgrade what you want to upgrade. However, if you don't upgrade the right elements, or if you don't focus on certain attributes over others, you're going to find yourself having a much more frustrating time, just because of the type of style the game is. So I do recommend that you do kind of focus on as you start playing the game, you'll get an idea of type of your type of play style, and the type of things that you're going to be utilizing most of. I found that the augmentations, different equipment and stuff, really saved my ass towards the end of the game. So just make sure that you kind of pay attention to those elements, because they do actually come into play quite significantly towards the end of the game. So, what we have here is a game on a presentation standpoint that is, very beautiful to look at. The graphics, honestly, this looks a lot better in person than it does in the videos. This game has a beautiful world that you're going to want to explore and to really kind of delve into. I will say that the polish of the game is a little bit lacking, though. I ran into numerous bugs and glitches, and for a game that's almost 3 months old at this point, it's a little bit concerning that the developers haven't fixed some of these issues yet. I managed to hit one progress haltering bug where the enemy I was supposed to kill didn't actually spawn, and I had to close the game and restart it. I hit another bug that had to do with the audio of the game, where the audio would consistently cut in and out and skip around, and I had to actually restart my console in order to do that. And that was a game bug, by the way. That wasn't a console bug. I verified that. And then there were just other small glitches here or there, getting stuck on the geometry, enemies like not reacting to your hits and stuff like that. There's a lot of, things here that I feel like the polish could have been, just a little bit cleaned up. I don't know if there was more development time needed. From what I understand, there's only 12 people who developed this game, so it's a very small team. And honestly, for what they created here, it's mighty impressive. So, I will say that, the graphics, the sound as well, the soundtrack in this game is like a perfect mixture of Blade Runner, I would say Deus Ex, and like that game Syndicate as well from 2012. It takes a lot of those elements and has a lot of electronic beats. I ended up actually purchasing the soundtrack, and I like some of the music as well in there. So it's got all the things necessary from a presentation standpoint to really make this feel a little bit more AAA than indie. But the polish does lack. The storytelling is especially lacking in this one, and the gameplay is very much the same thing. And so as you're spending more and more time in this game, fatigue's going to set in very, very early in this experience, and so it's just something to keep in mind. But for a game that's only $30, I mean, what you get here is a game that does take advantage of the value that at least they're charging you for. Again, there's a lot of content in here. It's just up to you whether or not you kind of like this style. This isn't a particular type of genre and stuff that I enjoy. This is more of an arcade style shooter, but I found myself enjoying the experience more so for just exploring the world and being a part of this as well. And I just love the interactivity. There's a lot of different small details here that really bring this world to life. I love how you can start a firefight in the middle of a crowd and you see like all these people start scattering and running away from you. It looks really cool in motion, and then some of those people get caught in the crossfire. It really does do a great job at selling the world, and for me, it feels more cyberpunk than even the cyberpunk game. And I just wish that I wish that someone created a world like this, but in like a first-person perspective to really kind of, sell you and immerse you into this experience. As it stands, though, this is a very solid, I think, third-person arcade shooter. If you have a Series X, I definitely recommend checking it out. I did hear that the frame rate and the visuals do suffer quite significantly on the last-gen consoles. So I don't know if I want to recommend it at that point. But still, as a game for, really kind of bringing you into this world and immersing you into, the world around you, it does a great job at that. Sound is great. It's just that you're going to feel the fatigue as you start playing it, much later on towards the end of the game, especially as the challenge starts ramping up. It becomes more frustrating than it does rewarding, unfortunately. So that being said, I feel like this is a solid, arcade shooter. Check it out if you have the means, and I enjoyed my overall time with it. Glad I got to play it for at least the world. So if you guys played this, let me know what you guys think. This has been my review, I guess, of the Ascent, and I'll be back with more videos later on as I start playing them. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.